4 Dead is our first attempt to combine the strengths of single-player and...
Originally in Left 4 Dead, there were some features that made it possible for players to cause trouble for others. This behavior, known as grief...
While we were developing bots for Counter-Strike Source, we discovered that...
We experimented with a variety of different introductions for each campaign. For No Mercy, we tried a 40-second fly-in of the helicopter to give the player a more movie-like...
We treat the infected horde as a major character in Left 4 Dead and spend a lot of effort in making their movements believable. This includes hundreds of motion captured animations that are algorithmically blended with the physics system to create characters that realistically interact with their environment and each other. The common hordes stagger around, cough, vomit, fight amongst themselves, leaning...
Left 4 Dead requires a variety of areas off the main path where the infected can spawn. We learned that once we had created these spaces, players naturally wanted to explore them. So fairly late in development, we decided to reward the players for going into these areas by allowing the random creation of bonus items.
The most common attitude toward music in multiplayer games is that it just gets in the way. We wanted the music in Left 4 Dead to heighten the key emotional elements that should be inherent in a horror game.
Once the game is in a playable state, we bring in friends and family who've never played the game to playtest specific areas, maps, or campaigns. These players bring a fresh perspective and objectivity to the game experience that often gives us new insights into what's working and what's not in our games. We observe their play and experience their exhilarations and frustrations. While playing, we encourage them to talk and ask questions to get a better idea of what they're thinking, though we let them know that we won't be able to answer any of those questions or offer any help. Watching these playtests helps us to tune the game so that
To find a coherent visual look for Left 4 Dead, we first had to make choices that would help enhance gameplay in a very dark setting. The darkness is crucial to Left 4 Dead, as it forces players to stick together and encourages cooperative gameplay. We took advantage of lessons learned from our previous work on Team Fortress 2, particularly in regard to maintaining the readability of character silhouettes in a dark, chaotic environment.
Anyone designing a post-apocalyptic city has to deal with the problem of how to light it. Initially, our take on it was that the city still had power.
Car alarms are an example of what we call panic events, brief, intense, and maybe avoidable moments.
Early versions of Left 4 Dead allowed more skillful players to run off on their own without much fear of deadly consequences, bobbing and weaving around the infected before they could react. The addition of player slowdown, when hit by a common infected, severely reduced the player's ability to simply run straight through the horde. More importantly, the Hunter Pounce and Smoker Hang presented fatal situations for a player on his own. These additions instilled the fear of being alone in even the most seasoned of FPS players, reinforcing the value of tight teamwork. Early versions of Left 4 Dead allowed more skillful players to run off on their own without much fear of deadly consequences, bobbing and weaving around the infected before they could react. The addition of player slowdown, when hit by a common infected, severely reduced the player's ability to simply run straight through the horde. More importantly, the Hunter Pounce and Smoker Hang presented fatal situations for a player on his own. These additions instilled the fear of being alone in even the most seasoned of FPS players, reinforcing the value of tight teamwork.
Anyone designing a post-apocalyptic city has to deal with the problem of how to light it. Initially, our take on it was that the city still had power. You could see lights in many windows and the streetlights were all lit up. It didn't give us the atmosphere we wanted, but we felt we needed those light sources. When we started to unify the art and lighting design, one of the decisions was to eliminate a lot of lights. This gave us an opportunity to come up with other ways of bringing light into scenes. As we removed lights, we found we were also removing any sense of normality in the city. Without lit windows, or even the illuminated signage in front of stores, we removed some familiarity from the player's experience. Things are lit from lower angles than they would expect, from car headlights and oil barrel fires. These dramatic angles really enhance the sense of a creepy, desolate, almost hopeless environment. Now it's a city that you've seen, but not in a way that you've ever seen it before. Something's amiss. Something's off.
Lock that door!